Welcome to Rising Goddess Radio. I'm your hostess, Michelle Torrance. I created Rising Goddess Radio to be a space where we dive deep into our spiritual, emotional, and physical bodies. We're getting real and connecting with ourselves in the most intimate ways. We'll be talking all things sacred sexual, relationship building, and womb healing. We'll be learning how to connect with our bodies through learning the language it speaks, how to use our sexual and sensual energies to create, manifest, and heal our lives. This show is about healing the chaotic feminine and toxic masculine within to create a world that responds to the divine and healthy energy you chose to tune in, tap in, and turn on. We will learn from amazing humans who take time and share their wisdom and sacred healing magic, rising humans who are here in this world to be healers, teachers, guides, priestesses, warriors, and shamans. All divine sisters and brothers in rising. We'll get witchy, sassy, sexy, and saucy. We're going to talk all things that align us with our true nature and authentic selves and create a community that expands with the ascension and growth of each of us. So grab some green juice, light some cannabis, get your blankets, or sit by the pool because we are about to rise up another level together. Catch you on the inside, dolls. Hello, my beautiful rising humans. Welcome to this next episode of Rising Goddess Radio. I'm sitting here in a new location right now. I'm in my bedroom. Welcome to my room. I'm looking around. I've got all my beautiful stuff that I love. I'm very eclectic in my style. Excuse me. I love mix and matching all sorts of things, definitely spiritual steampunk and anything boho, European stuff. I mean, again, I'm eclectic, so my style is all over the place, which matches who I am, right? I mean, you've been following me for a while. I'm usually all over the place all the time, but who says we have to be in one place at one time all the time, right? We're here to travel, journey, explore, expand, adventure. Let's go out and adventure together, okay? So, what is this episode? You guys have seen some changes with Rising Goddess Radio. You've seen changes with the Rising Goddess. First of all, before I go any further, this episode, amongst many other episodes, and I'll make sure I'll do disclaimers up front. This episode is for adult ears only. Adult ears only, maybe 16, 17, depending on the communication and perspective level of that said 16 or 17-year-old. But we're going to be talking about some major things that would be best listened to, whether with earbuds or when the littles are not around. So I'm just going ahead and giving you that information right now because while this is an important conversation and it's important to talk about sex with our littles, it's important to have the right type of communication and conversation with our littles as they grow into not so littles anymore. So now that I've said that, I'm going to give you a second to either get your earbuds in or get the littles out and then come back. In the meantime, I'm going to take a hit of some amazing homegrown organic cannabis. And just settle right in because this conversation can get a little tricky. And let me also just say that this conversation we're about to have is really my own personal perspective, research, and talking with multiple different people. And my research is peer research through looking, of course, researching through papers, looking through books, researching both the chemical release and chemical impacts and hormonal impacts on our body, the physical impact on our body. I research talking to people and having a one-on-one conversations because it's very important for me when I give this stuff and I share with y'all and we're sitting here having, conversations by the fire or whatnot or by the pool. It's important that I provide a rounded perspective from multiple different areas, but then also share with you why I'm talking about this, and what my curiosity perspective is. And as we progress and move and evolve with the Rising Goddess, if you have followed me on most of my social medias, you've definitely been seeing a shift into my being more open about being in the lifestyle, about our relationship being a consensual, non-monogamous, open relationship. There's so many different labels that people have for this, and we'll go over different labels and stuff. But as I am expanding more new into this lifestyle, there's people in the world who have been doing this for far longer than I have. So I clearly understand that I am not an expert. I clearly understand that there's so much knowledge and wisdom out there. Some resources I would highly encourage you to go follow Sex Uninterrupted with Tara, Rose, and James. They are absolutely amazing. They have such wonderful content, and they're just wonderful people. And it was them. I had them on the show. You can go listen to that episode as well. It's a 2-part show. The first one was with both of them. The second part was just with Tara alone. And it's interesting. I think back to when I was doing that episode, and I was really so nervous because it was at this time where I had been really just finally allowing myself to actually accept the fact that this might be the life that would be beneficial for me and my husband and our life together. And I was very nervous. I also had a super crush on Tara, allowing myself to kind of experience those feelings for a woman. I mean, she was the one, and you'll hear on that episode too, that, she triggered me tremendously. And that was what really kind of triggering, right? When we're triggered emotionally, the hope is that it activates a curiosity thought process. And when it activates a curiosity thought process, then that is when we're actually able to start questioning. And once we start to question, then we start to become aware. And once we start to become aware, we start to awaken. And then we rise up into our truth, and we start to transmute these lies that we were taught that were our truth, right? So I felt like that was a whole lot of shit right there. But anyways, so today's episode, which you can see by the title, which we'll dive into that, is really based on when we dove in and we started having our own experiences. What we found was this one word that really seemed to have kind of taken hold of both, not only in this sexual lifestyle, but again in the sexual industry, in the porn world as well. If you go and you search anything in the porn world, you'll see that this word comes up a lot. So when we started to look it up and realized what it was, and we looked up the definition, because that's what we do. We kind of geek out on words. You know how I am. I love words. Words are spells. And so being able to communicate, articulate, and express ourselves via verbally is important, and it's a turn on for me. So I think there's a word for that. Somebody let me know. Right, there's some sort of word for that. Let me know in my social media. You can follow me, of course. We'll take a quick break here and plug this in. Follow me on Instagram, and that's at the Rising Goddess _. That's at the Rising Goddess _. And then come join the Rising Goddess group on Facebook, and then follow me, Michelle Torrance, the Rising Goddess, and that's where we'll have a lot of our conversations on these episodes, where we can communicate and I can talk with you guys, and really just have part of that community conversation. So. Anyways, words are very important. And so when we looked up this word, we looked up the definition, and there was one word in the definition that we weren't very sure of. So we looked up that definition, and it clearly brought everything together, right? So this episode is regarding now this is kind of a mix of episode, how it came about to have this knowledge and awareness of this word and what was going on. And this is really important, especially for people who are starting to become more aware of their own sexuality and the relationships that they want to have with their partner. If you are moving from a monogamous relationship to a consensual non-monogamous relationship, I work with couples in communicating through that transition, right? Because it's a major thing. I mean, a lot of people think think that, there's no jealousy or anything like that. No, we work continuously, communicate and conversate and work through all of these things, jealousy and fears of abandonment and all of these things that pop up. I really fully believe that allowing ourselves to open up our sexuality and open up understanding in our relationship and being able to fall into the freedom and the truth of that has helped us heal such deep wounds that even both of us didn't even realize were in there. So now understanding that one aspect of coming into LS and the people that I surround myself with, these are people who are really seeking internally of healing and expressing and rising and for the humanity, for themselves and of course for humanity, but for the growth of the collective. And so coming into and seeing other sides of it, and this particular other side has really fascinated me. I've said this before. It's funny. Sean is always telling me, like, every time you say that, humans this, humans that, it's like you're separating yourself apart. And I can totally understand that, but I'm not really, because I am counted in myself as a human in this. But the human experience, the human body, the human response system, the nervous system, the hormonal system, the emotional, energetic, vibrational system, the core frequencies of human beings' existence is so fascinating to me. And so as we started to dive in, and of course, me being, a sex witch, right? A sex and intimacy communication coach, a sexual alchemist, helping my clients transmute sexual shame into sexual empowerment. It was very interesting and fascinating, again, to see many people utilizing shame and humiliation as a form of sexual pleasure. And it was extremely just fascinating for me. And I've been studying this for the last few months. And it all derived from penis shaming and penis size shaming. And there's going to be more information and more episodes on penis shaming because really that episode and really talking about penis shaming, whether small or large, is really has to do with the woman and how women are continuing to perpetuate the toxic the toxic behaviors that are expressed through the masculine counterpart, right? Because we can say toxic masculinity, but understand there are many, many, many women who are extremely toxic. And so we call that, I don't know if we, they, I, to me, it comes out as chaos, right? The chaotic femme and the toxic mask. But it's really all just toxic behaviors. And you'll hear this when you hear the episode with Una Grace and Denny. He really kind of had a great perspective shift on toxic masculinity, and really it's no assignment to gender, but really it's the behavior aspect, and it's learned and indoctrinated behaviors, right, which we talk a lot about here on the show. So so penis shaming is something that is so prevalent and is just everywhere. And it happens in just normal conversations because it's just a part of it. This is really how racism has happened and come mainstream, right? When with all the jokes, right? Whether it's prejudice against, Asians, like when we see in the movie, like I was watching, Bruce Lee, the Dragon Story the other day. And, and at the beginning when he's, they're at the movie theater and he's on the date and, what are they watching? I forgot what movie they're watching. I think they're watching, I forgot. Anyways, but it portrays, an Asian man in this stereotypical way, and it's just accepted, right? And even on, what was it? I think it was on Conan, that this guy came on and he was a comedian. He was talking about how it's just a normal thing, right? Like Irish people, right? That is like, you're drinking a lot, right? So that particular stereotype and prejudice is just a normal thing, but ultimately that's really not the case, right? And so it's how it's so mainstream, right? So, when people walking around saying they got big dick energy, this is something that I heard the girls talking about a few months ago, and we had a conversation about it here in the house, because what does that mean? Big dick energy. Ultimately, that means that the only power, like feeling powerful, feeling confident, right? But does that mean then that only the person with a big dick can feel that way, right? So then, of course, that continues to trigger more research on my end, right? And talking to multiple different people, and I've done research, asking people, have you shamed penises? Has your penis ever been shamed for the size of it, whether big or small? Because I'll be honest, I had an experience in the past where I shamed a man for the size of his penis based off of the current knowing of what I was taught, what was supposed to be right, what I was supposed to expect, right? I was expressing my toxicity based off of what I was taught on what to expect. And that was just terrible. It's absolutely terrible, right? And then there's the opposite end. There's men who have extremely large penises, right? Who may have extremely many issues, whether it's hard for them to stay erect long enough, whether they are able to actually have a full sensational orgasm because there is so much pressure built up within it, because there are so many muscles and veins and everything that's going through, whether they have problems as they get older, whether they're more susceptible to any sort of cancers or any sort of illnesses that can be expressed to that, which we'll get into another episode on illnesses being expressed and manifested in this world and in our lives through our emotional and mental and vibrational frequency misalignment. All right, hold on. Smoke break. Smoke it if you got it. So again, I haven't even said the title of this episode, right? Of course you read it, right? But it's penis shaming, but it's also cuckold. The shift from voyeurism to degradation. So this word cuckold, right? When you look it up, right? When you look up, and you can go to Google, because this is part of the conversations that we've had. We've had multiple conversations in multiple different areas regarding this word. And it's been with men. It's been with people who come in claiming and like who they are, what type of person that they are, whether they are coming in as a bull, right? But a lot of these times people come in and they're like, does it any wives in need, right? So, cuckold definition is a man whose wife is sexually unfaithful, often regarded as an object of derision. Excuse me. So, derision was the word that we didn't fully understand. So we looked up the definition of derision, right? Because again, if you're wanting to understand one word and there's a word in the definition that you don't understand, then it's imperative to look up that word, right? So derision is contemptuous ridicule or mockery, jeering, taunting, jeers, disdain, disparagement, denigration, degradation, disrespect, sneering, vilification, contempt, teasing, all of these things, right? These are all synonyms of cuckold, right? So basically what it is so what happened, right? How does this word come about? Like, what is part of this? This is where I'm finding it so challenging, or I guess curious or fascinating, or all of these different adjectives as to how people are able to derive pleasure from that, right? Because me being a shame transmutation, right? A sexual alchemist, helping specifically through sexual shame, transmuting sexual shame into empowerment. How then is this? You see how this is a quagmire in my mind, right? So typically what it is in a three-way type situation, there'll be another male that'll come in, and that other male will consider himself like a bull. Right? That's he'll come in and he's got usually a very large penis, and what they do in this cuckold situation is the husband is then put basically in the corner, right, to the side. the husband cannot join in, and his wife and this other guy are having sex, and they taunt him, telling him, oh, you can't fuck me this right, or, yeah, you wish you could fuck her like this, or don't you wish you'll never have a cock like this, and all of these things like that, right? So it's that degradation, that humiliation of the husband, right? So he is the cuckold. Okay. Now here's the problem. And here's where I guess not problem, I guess I can call it a problem in my mind, because it is like solving a problem in my mind because of the fact that I help people with shame, right? So hearing this makes my heart and my stomach turn both in knots and in pain, right? Because I don't understand it. So this is then, of course, me doing research, and then, of course, calling out there to you for many people. There's people out there, many people, who experience this and who want to experience this. And so hearing from you and having conversation about this, is first where we can actually get it out in the open and actually start to learn and understand more about different things. But B, could also bring about an awareness to the base expression of it, right? The base vibration of cuckold experiences is shame, right? And if we believe that shame is how to love, then we will continue to perpetuate these experiences to prove love to ourselves and to others. Okay, so here's where my concern is, or where the confusion is because anytime talking about voyeurism, right? So if the husband wants to just watch his wife enjoy and have an experience with another man, possibly have the ability to join in if he wants to, but the fact that he just is enjoying watching, instantly this has been shifted now from voyeurism to cuckold. So therefore, meaning that where did this shift happen, right? Where did this transition take place, where somebody who enjoys voyeurism is instantaneously decision made for them? If they were to move into a three-way situation, they would instantly be a cuckold. Okay, so this is where I'm finding this confusion, and finding where what has happened. Where in our world did voyeurism turn into degradation? When did that happen? And then also, how, right? How does the person who is the quote unquote cuckold, how is he gaining pleasure from this, right? So I having conversations with people, I've heard from multiple different things, from it's a form of submission and a submissive partner so being released, right? Because of course we in the BDSM community, there's the subs and doms, and there's many different levels of that. I've also been learning on that, right? There's so many different levels of BDSM. There's also the different types of daddy baby girl type stuff, right? Which is a whole nother aspect of sub-dom, right? So some people have mentioned and said that it's a submissive experience, allowing him to release. However, when I think about that, then what does that mean? Does that mean then that dom sub relationships then are based off of humiliation and shame? So of course I'm going to have on the show, I'm going to speak with a dom, I'm going to have a sub come on the show and speak with a sub, and then I'm going to speak with a sub and their dom, and really understand how that relationship works, because I've heard on many different things in many different aspects and conversations as well, that a true quote unquote true dom is not humiliating, does not shame, but ultimately supports their sub, encourages them, but takes the lead to make these decisions and tells them these things that ultimately supports their growth and then helps them expand into their own independence, right? So it's almost like a mentor type situation from what I'm seeing in some conversations that I'm having, right? I've also seen some other conversations just being part of conversations between other people And this particular person claiming to be a dom was just straight up rude and mean. And so that piqued curiosity within me as well. So where's that line, right? So there's always this spectrum that I'm seeing, right? We're always on the spectrum. There is no absolutes. The only absolutes that I'm finding within the sexual industry, within the lifestyle, within all of this stuff is our responses to it, and our belief systems and the choices that we make based off of those belief systems, right? So again, here is where I'm finding, I guess, confusion, curiosity, fascination, in the fact of when did watching, right, as part of 3 people in the bedroom, the husband just watching his wife with another person, passion, playing, all this stuff like that, fun things happening, right? Having the ability to join. But then when talking about it now, wanting to have another male join, the conversation is then twisted to the husband then being a cuckold or a cuck, and this other man coming in and pleasing the wife the way she quote unquote needs to, right? So this has just been some craziness for me. So it's still an ongoing conversation. This isn't like one episode and then one research paper and it's done, because the evolution of sex, the evolution of humans, the evolution of industries, the evolution of expressions, the evolution of the frequencies that we are rising up into is going to constantly spiral up and change. So, this conversation is going to continue, and that's what I'm so hopeful for. But here is where I would really want to encourage people, right? And this is at least encouraging people who may not have thought about it in this way, who might have experienced this type of situation, right? How were you taught to love? How were you taught love was, right? So if you were taught growing up in your world, whether or not it's sexual, expressed sexually, but if you were taught that shame and humiliation equal love, aka being hit by dad or mom, being belittled verbally or emotionally or mentally abused, and then that expression of abuse being the expression of their love. I'm only doing this because I love you. Right? So right there, that is being taught like, oh, I'm only doing this because I love you. So then you are then thinking, okay, well, to be loved, then the expression of love is hitting and anger, right? And belittling and humiliation. So then as you grow older and then you start to express yourself sexually, then your expression and your idea of what love is shame and humiliation and degradation, right? So then you would find yourself in a situation where you would put yourself into that shame frequency again to experience pleasure, because that is what love is. And love equals pleasure. And to experience pleasure, to have the love and all of that triangular aspect, right? Sex doesn't always have to equal love. Well, of course it does. That doesn't necessarily mean the depth of love that's there, but there's got to be some sort of love, passion, vibration, and frequency, right? For there to be a chemistry is what sparks up the love. We are love. So of course there's love in everything that we do. There's love in everything that we are. There's love in everything in who we be. You see what I'm saying? So of course there's love in sex. It's just depending on the degree of love, right? You've got to love someone enough and love yourself enough, right? To have a sexual situation. Now I say this in a way where, again, how we were taught what love is. So even if you were taught that love equals shame, or love equals humiliation, or love equals pain, then you are still going to express yourself in those ways, believing that that is the way love is. That's the way love goes. Whoo! Janet's been popping up in my feed all day today. Must be needing to listen to Janet today. Smoke break. So listen. This is still an ongoing conversation. This is not going to stop. This isn't going to be like an end and I'm going to have some sort of answer or something. But this episode was so important for me to talk about because I feel like that while there are so many different kinks out in this world, right? While you express and start to explore your own sexuality, while you and your partner start to explore open, consensual, non-monogamous relationships, right? As you start to explore these things within yourself and heal past traumas, whether your own or ancient through the mother wound, the witch wound, and all of these cellular ancient traumas and pains, right? As you go through this, realize that there's so much out there that we're not aware of, and there's so many different things that are considered kinks. But where do we draw the line between allowing it to be a kink and where it steps over into perpetuation of shame? And this is really just kind of, again, just where I'm finding myself resting and just listening and watching and exploring more. So this is where I'd love to have part of your conversation here. Have you been in a cuckold situation? Have you been in a chosen consensual cuckold situation? If you were, what was your experience? Why do you choose to have that cuckold situation or to be in that? If you have been the wife of someone in that experience, because here is where it's like, you know, when we're doing it, it's like I'm thinking how I couldn't find myself, of course, because this is me. And again, I'm a sexual shame transmutation witch. Like, this is what I do, right? If I find myself like I couldn't belittle or degrade or taunt the person that I love and ultimately want to see uplifted and empowered and confident. And so I'm asking you now for your part and your perspective, and if you've been a part of that, how have you responded? Does that something, where do you find it healthy, right? Because really, where is there any sort of healthy situation? Is there any sort of healthy aspect to degradation and humiliation? And I don't see that anywhere. I don't find it, whether that's in the sexual lifestyle or not. I don't find any healthy aspect of degradation and humiliation. I do find a healthy aspect in a trusted, loving, submissive, letting go nature, but ultimately allowing the fluidity to flow. Now, again, that's me. There's many people out there who live a submissive life throughout their entire life in all areas, not just their sexual life, but that they live that submissive nature. Some people just do it in a submissive nature during their sexual experiences and in their sex life, right? So, but again, there's a difference from what my research has done and what I am having multiple conversations. There's a difference between being more submissive and letting go and watching versus humiliating, degrading, and excluding. Right? And so where is there, if you have one of those aspects, how and where and if is there a healthy aspect to any sort of humiliation or degradation? And all of this really starts and is centered around penis size. So if it's centered around penis size, that's a major conversation that we need to have continuously as well, right? So are you someone who has been in a cuckold situation with a small penis? And is this something that you choose to do and you find pleasure in because that's how you were taught that you were supposed to be in that lower role because of the size of your penis, right? Based off of the societal conditioning and programming in the actual nature world. I mean, everything is man, right? Everything has fallacy stuff within it, right? Everything's these large phallics, right? So it's really going back again to the control of the patriarchy, right? Everything being the man in control, and the larger the phallus, the more prominent and powerful the man, right? Because then we see it expressed in other ways, right? What is it called? Like the Napoleon complex, right? Because Napoleon was a very short man, so then therefore he would overcompensate, right? As another word, he would overcompensate, right? We hear this a lot, right? When we see dudes, right? I've partaken of this myself many times, right? When we see guys driving and they're driving these big trucks and they're like oversized everything, and we're like, oh, they're compensating for something, right? Are they really? A, and B, why does it matter? And C, why should they feel like they have to? Do you see what I'm saying? Why should someone feel like they have to overcompensate based off of societal expectations of what we are supposed to be taught and expect in a penis? Does that make sense? So this is where Rising Goddess is moving. We're moving towards penis and vaginas. Well, we've always been in vaginas, but we're incorporating and adding in a lot of this, and we're definitely going to be talking a lot more about these aspects in the lifestyle, because there's so many people within the lifestyle who are reaching out for help too. Just because you're in the lifestyle doesn't mean that you are currently in a healthy state of mind, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, vibrationally, and even sexually. Right? But what it does mean is that you are open enough and willing enough to be open enough to research, to define, to explore, to see where you could possibly find that healing. And that is what is so wonderful and amazing about it. So I'm going to end this episode because I like to keep these anywhere like under 40 minutes, because I know that as humans, especially in this new age and day, attention span is getting shorter and shorter. So for me to be able to keep your attention in this conversation and hanging out with me for this long, I'm super grateful, and thank you for being a part of this episode and with this shift with Rising Goddess, and understanding that everything that I talk about and explore and share with you is all from the base of my core existence and truth, and wanting to fully help you rise in everything that you do. So if you're interested in wanting to work with me one-on-one, I do offer Voxer Talks, which is the ability to connect with me 24/7 via walkie-talkie app. We can either talk or text. This is really amazing. It's flexible with everybody's schedule. And when things pop up, we have the ability to walk through transmutations and expressions and learn how and have the healing process right there. I offer 1 week, 2 week, and 4 week options. So definitely reach out to me. You can connect with me on Instagram at @TheRisingGoddess_. Again, that's at @TheRisingGoddess_. You can also connect with me on Facebook, which is Michelle Torrance, The Rising Goddess. Or you can also come and join the Rising Goddess group. That is for women only. If you are a man and you want to be part of the community, definitely come join the Rising Goddess group for Rising Humans. That's for both all humans, however you identify, no matter the gender, because the work that I do is for all humans. It doesn't matter the gender, sexual orientation. This is for you. So it's time to clean some stuff for the plants, as you can hear outside. So the ladies need a bath. We're going to go clean them. And thanks so much for joining me. And I will catch you on the next episode. Later.